My family and I moved back to Dubuque 4 years ago. I had the scarf on, and it's amazing how this very light accessory, how much weight it brings with it in terms of stereotype and in terms of unconscious bias. And I'm sure 4 years ago when we were looking for rent, we were scrutinized a little closer.
I think as a person of color, as a Latino, I get it quite a bit where folks will assume things. I still remember, the first week in college, someone saw I had a tattoo. And they combined the assumptions of, I think of a Latino, a tattoo, and then they asked the question, so are you in a gang? You're like, of all the questions you could have asked, that's the one. I'm like, no, I'm okay, I don't mess with that.
I grew up in my grandparents' home in the north end of Dubuque. Our father left our family when I was 18 months old. I had 6 other siblings, and we had a lot of assistance. When I was going through school, I can only remember, I think, 3 families of color. I always thought, it was kind of odd that the city of Dubuque really didn't have a lot of minority population. I couldn't understand why that was.
I have a colleague who shared with me once that she gets up in the morning and she looks in the mirror, and her one reality is, I'm going out into this world with this black face, and there are people who are not going to like me because of the color of my skin. That was such an eye-opening statement to me, something I'd never had to experience.
I was probably 3 years old, and I was playing with some other kids, and a mother from those other kids came in and grabbed her kids and said, "You can't play with those Jap kids." And I also remember very distinctively my dad sitting my sisters and I down when we were in elementary school and said, "If people ask you, tell them you're Hawaiian, don't tell them you're Japanese." So from an early age on, I knew there was some difference.
My parents were white supremacists. I was taught how to shoot a gun because at some point in our history and in our future, we were going to have to participate in ethnic cleansing. What allowed me to move away from my upbringing was meeting people who I was taught to be afraid of. And I learned that what I was taught wasn't true.
It took me 30 years to realize this is my home and not Chicago. It's hard to make a leap when you believe that you're not wanted. That's one of the things that people who are not from Dubuque fight. Often people always say, if you weren't born here, you're not a Dubuquer. And I'm like, I've been here 30 years. I mean, come on.
The reason the Inclusive Dubuque Network started is that business employers were having a hard time retaining a diverse workforce. We are a local group of about 60 partners who are working on equity and inclusion in the Dubuque area. We want to make Dubuque a welcoming and inclusive place for everybody, regardless of any difference or how long they've lived in town.
We found that race and other areas of difference, sexual orientation, even religion, were keeping people from having the same success that others were having. There was this draw to come together with people who were committed to turning this around and saying, how do we move forward?
One of the things that gives Inclusive Dubuque its strength is the diversity of the kinds of organizations that are taking part. Nonprofits, businesses, religious orders, the educational institutions are all involved. And that kind of diversity creates various mixes of people who can have power.
I think it really comes down to having some courageous conversations with people that don't understand it. A simple thing, but not easy to accomplish.
22 years in the military, and there's a term that's called marking time. Marking time means that you're burning the same energy, but you're not going anywhere, right? As a community, we got to stop marking time. We got to move. Sometimes we have to be willing to step outside of our comfort zone.
If we don't face the issues that are in front of us and shift our lens, there won't be any change. And that's not easy. To bring together the person who doesn't see a problem and the person who is plagued with problems and have conversation.
Not many communities have done this kind of thing, nationwide, worldwide. It's a handful that have really attempted in good faith to do this kind of work. I mean, people really wanted to do this.
When you really get to know someone and you learn their personal story and you see what they're going through, it just really tears at your heart, and then you see all the needs and then it overwhelms you. Because of that, you don't give up.
Without aspiring to an equitable and inclusive community, we absolutely cannot win the competition for talent. It is an expectation of individuals that move here that their community is engaging, welcoming, diverse, harmonious.
How we achieve that inclusion, how do we achieve that feeling of each individual belonging is when you treat those individuals with equity.
When I was 10, I couldn't see. I was in a class of 40 students and I couldn't see the board. And they found out that I need glasses. First in my family to need glasses. By giving me that pair of glasses, I could see and learn just like everybody else. That is equity. It's not giving somebody an advantage. It's filling the gap that that person needs to have equal access.
The problems can feel overwhelming, the progress can feel so slow, and so to come to those meetings and see there's a whole group of people who are like, yep, we're in it for the long haul. That's what inspires me.
I think there was an awareness of these kinds of issues, but now they were sitting talking with their neighbor who's saying, this is really real. You can't get that on a survey.
Dubuque has had great success over the last 10, 20 years, and we want to make sure that it's not just new buildings, but that it's neighborhoods coming around where all people are being successful.
We all share this one planet and we're all in it together. And to be able to spread that message to reach more individuals is not only a great model for the Dubuque community, but also for the country, that this is all happening in this little all-American small town on the Mississippi.
There is no alternative for our community besides embracing equity and inclusion if we want to thrive and grow.
We need everybody. We need everybody's perspectives. I hope that you'll join us and allow us to learn from you.
Be courageous and join the conversation.
Just join us.
Join the conversation.
Join the conversation.
Join this conversation, please.